what's up? Welcome to another edition of the Sports Office. It is great to have you here tonight. Greg Cantor in the house. We got a lot to talk about. And remember, you can always join us. Is it up? Do we see it?
There it is.
There it is, right there. Just click on that Zoom link and you can join the show. We'll pop you up a little bit later. You'd come over here. Tommy would have you in the Zoom room.
We'll pull you into the show.
Pull you into the show, and we want to hear what you have to say. We'll do that a little bit later. Tonight's show is brought to you by the Michigan Army National Guard. Learn more, nationalguard.com/MI, and we appreciate that.
Well
being
read.
a part of the
It's
show.
as if you've done that before.
Thank you. You know what? Tonight is kind of a cool night for me. This is one of my oldest friends in the business. I've known this guy for over 40 years. Yeah, he single-handedly made sure that my sobriety in the 80s did not last. And there are some things, road trips, many days and nights on the road that we'll have to wait until the book comes out for those stories.
Okay.
But it's a pleasure to welcome in. He is one of the voices of the NFL on Compass Radio, and he also works on the PGA Tour for SiriusXM. You hear his voice every weekend if you listen to the golf coverage. Bill Rosinski, what's up, my man?
Danny boy, you're right, it's been quite a ride. Go back some 41 years when you and I got together at the old Mutual Radio Network. You were there before I got there, and you were my first producer. And, I look back at those days. I was there from, 85 to 92. That's when I left to go to Atlanta to be the voice of the Falcons. And, we had a lot of great talent there. You talked about the good times we had. We can't talk about some of them now. But, some of the road trips are really interesting. The golf trips that we would take. Those are great days.
Good stuff. I was there for your first network play-by-play game. You remember where that was?
Oh, well, I think my first college game was Penn State. Boston College, Penn State.
We were at Boston College. Yes. And this is how different times were. Now security's so buttoned up. That day, me and my friend Paul Sexton were down in the field kicking field goals before the game. That's how you can't do that now. That's the difference between now and whatever year that was, 1980 something. But you've done great. As you mentioned, voice of the Falcons. You were the voice of the Panthers. You've been the voice of ESPN Radio. Now working for Compass Sports and doing PGA Tour work as well. So you have had an unbelievable career and still going. So many of those things that I want to hit on with you. But let me start with this. As you kind of looked around the NFL this year and you're doing games, regardless of who's alive or not, when you were going to the playoffs, who do you think was the best team in the league?
I think, Danny, it changed every week.
Yeah.
You and I were together that opening weekend in Green Bay.
Yeah.
And I watched the Packers play, and I'm thinking, wow, they get Parsons from Dallas. Great game. The Lions struggled that day. Green Bay looked really good. And I thought then the Packers might have been the team to beat after the first week, but it just changes all the time. We've gone from the Rams to Seattle. You go over in the AFC, you look at the great start that the Colts had this year, and all of a sudden injuries hit. I'm a Buffalo guy. I grew up a Bills fan, still a Bills fan. They have not been great this year, but they're grinding. It's been wide open, and I think this now that when Mahomes bowed out, I think. The AFC's wide open. I don't know who's going to win it.
Yeah.
Houston's got a great defense. And in the NFC right now, I did a Seahawks game against Carolina a few weeks ago, and the Seahawks might be the best tackling defense I've seen in the league this year. And suddenly we're talking about how defenses are going to win football games for you in the postseason. But it's been wild. I think this has been one of the best NFL seasons because you just can't get a beat on it.
Yeah, and I look at it, and I want to say, okay, Mahomes is out. This is the Jordan not being in there moment for somebody. And, Josh Allen is obviously that guy that has been waiting for his time. And now you got no Mahomes. You got no Lamar Jackson. But I think you said it. Man, they're so beat up at receiver. I don't know if they have enough around him right now to get it done. I don't bet against him. He's terrific, but I just wonder what else they have to get it done.
Well, all I can say, you're right about receiver. I mean, they got three of them out. They have three active receivers right now getting ready to play the Broncos. They do have Josh Allen, and that, of course, was a huge difference against Jacksonville last week. Yeah. The one thing I will say about their defense all year long, they've been able to come up with turnovers at great opportune times. They can't stop the run, but they really play well. They play better in the second half than they do in the first. I thought they had a really good game overall last week against Jacksonville. But that interception they had at the end of the game to seal it is an example of what that defense can do. And they've been banged up in the defensive line all year long. I think they have a good chance to beat Denver. My problem is, you watch Houston the other night, man, that defense, we'll see how they do against a guy that can run the football at quarterback with Drake May. That's going to be a little different animal they're going to face than that statue who was in the backfield Monday night.
Yeah. No,
is there something to be said, though, with Buffalo where there's a little less pressure on them this year? They got to go on the road. They don't have one of the top 2 seeds, so they're not getting a bunch of home games. And now they can just play a little more free, and they can kind of go in and win on the road, win at Denver?
I think there's something to that, but I just wonder, does Josh Allen feel that growing year after year, man, you got to get it done? Bill, that's the only thing missing from his resume. That's it. I mean, everything else, he's checked all the boxes.
Yeah, and their GM is a friend of mine, Brandon Beane. It's funny how you watch guys grow up in the NFL. Brandon Beane was in the Panthers communications department when I was doing games here.
Wow.
He ended up in the front office, worked his way up as a scout, assistant GM, and now he's the GM of the Bills. He got there a year after McDermott took over as head coach, and he was taking a beating this year. I really think if they would have lost that game against Jacksonville, that's a big win. I think that was a big win for McDermott, big win for the franchise to go on the road and do that. If they can win this week in Denver, put them in the AFC Championship game, I think everybody's safe there. But you're right about Josh Allen. He's done everything but make it to the Super Bowl. And your original comments about Jackson being out, no Burrow, no Mahomes, this is his time. And can he carry this team to a Super Bowl? We're going to find out.
I think the team that I would say I know the least about in the league this year that I should know something about is Denver. I just feel like I have not seen much of them playing this year. How much have you seen and how good do you think they are? We were talking last night and their week schedule came up and whether or not some of their record was built on that. But it's a young quarterback with a heck of a head coach and a really good defense.
Yeah, it's a very arrogant head coach sometimes.
I saw that.
Yes, Sean thinks very highly of himself, and rightfully so. I mean, he has turned that franchise around since they lost, got rid of Russell Wilson. They bring in Nix. Their defense has been really good, but, I thought they were better, beginning and middle of the season. They struggled a little bit late. Jacksonville went in there and scored over 30 points and beat them. Nix is okay. I think they really live more off their defense than their offense.
Yeah.
Running game's okay. I mean, is there anybody that stands out offensively for them that it sticks out and says, this is the guy we got to stop? I don't see it. But, they won a lot of close games this year. They won a ton of close games coming back in the fourth quarter. Can you live like that all season long? Well, heck, the Bears have done that. How many times have they come back and won close games? So
7 in the final 2 minutes. 7.
There you go. Can you keep it going in the postseason? Hey, I went through a Panther team. We went to the Super Bowl in 2003, and that team won pretty much every close game you can think of. That's why they called them the Cardiac Cats. You can have seasons like that, and maybe that's the season Denver or Chicago's having right now.
How much do you appreciate that run? I mean, I know it meant a lot to you to call a Super Bowl and to be a part of that, but I mean, listen, being in Detroit, watching this team turn things around, be good, but still not be able to make it a couple of times, it gives you such an appreciation for teams that do. And you went on that ride with a team that people didn't necessarily think was going to be able to get there. What do you remember about that?
Well, you just remember that the early part of that season when Jake came in the second half against Jacksonville in their opening game. They were down 17-0. Rodney Peete was their starting quarterback. Delhomme comes in, rallies the team, throws a touchdown late to Ricky Prohl. They win it. The next week they go to Tampa. They're ahead 9-3 with pretty much no time left. The Bucs score a touchdown. I think it was Keyshawn, caught a touchdown pass. Extra point wins the game. The Panthers had already blocked 2 field goals. They blocked the extra point, end up winning in overtime. The game that year that stood out to me was going to Indianapolis, and they were really good with Peyton Manning, and the Panthers beat them to go to 5-0. They struggled a little bit towards the middle of the season, but that season was one where every close game, you knew someone was going to make a play, either side of the ball. And I remember we played the NFC Championship game in Philadelphia, and we had just beaten Dallas at home. We went to St. Louis. That was the famous double overtime game where Delhomme hit Steve Smith on the first play of the second overtime. And we're in Philly in the press box, and some writer from Philadelphia found out I was the play-by-play guy. He walks up to me and he says, "Do you think you guys have a chance today?" And I'm going, "Yeah. Haven't you been watching this team all year long?" And obviously we won that game. And the Super Bowl was incredible because, typical, Vinatieri wins it on a field goal with like 2 seconds to go.
Yeah. Was that a couple years after 1-15? Was that
2 years later?
Yeah, 2 years it took him to go.
Yeah, that was that's crazy. But the close game thing you mentioned. Okay, I want to get to golf in a second, but you mentioned Seattle, and I'll ask you the same question I'll ask anybody who brings up the Seahawks. At this time of year, do you trust Sam Darnold to be that guy that can win those games?
That's the big question. How many mistakes is Darnold going to make in this next game coming up against the 49ers? I've been when I was with ESPN Radio, I got to sit in a lot of production meetings with the TV crews when we were doing USC. Love Sam Darnold. Great guy. I wish the best for this kid. He's gone through a lot. He suffered with the Jets. He was here in Charlotte. He played, he and Baker Mayfield were both on the Panthers at the same time a couple of years ago. And just a good guy. And I think, he joined an elite crowd. 13 wins, back-to-back seasons. I think it was Brady, Manning, Favre, and Rodgers, the only other quarterbacks to ever do it. He's good.
Yeah.
That would be my one question mark.
Yeah.
Is he going to throw that bad pick, fumble the football? But I think he's got that like I said, that defense to me is the best tackling defense in football.
Don't make the mistakes. I mean, we saw him come in here week 18 last year against the Lions, and he was terrible. And then he went into the playoff game for Minnesota, and he was terrible. And I'm with you. You know what? You feel for him. He's done the right things. He's come through and come out the other side and done some great things. So it's going to be a fun weekend. It'll be fun to watch. And I know, this is going to be one that's wide open because, like I said, it's like Jordan's not there. Even though Mahomes didn't win it last year, he cast that long shadow over the Super Bowl and the playoffs for so long. Hey, let me add, Brooks Koepka leaves LIV and comes back. As you've kind of been on tour and been out there, did you get the sense from people for the past couple of years that at some point these guys were going to come back, that maybe it wasn't what they expected? Any of that kind of make its way around?
Yeah, to some extent. I think Koepka had expressed to some of his friends on tour that it just wasn't the same on LIV. I think John Rahm kind of feels the same way. I think Rahm joined thinking that, his leaving would spur some catalyst to, get these tours to unite, and it never happened. There's some issues out there because there's a lot of players who have a lot of animosity because these guys took the big bucks to go to this tour, and the other guys who stayed, the McIlroys and the Spieths and the Scotty Schefflers, they hung around. Yeah. Now, I think those players have said recently, especially McIlroy. McIlroy is the voice of the tour during all this. And then I think he finally he got backstabbed by Jay Monahan when they suddenly came out with this 2 years ago, this agreement. And I think that, from that point on, Rory's like, okay, I'm done with this. But I think they realize that if they can get these few guys back, look at that tour. Who on the LIV tour are you going to tune in and watch?
Bryson and Rahm, that's it.
There you go.
Pretty much.
So, and I don't think, they've said that this is a one-time window. I think it'll open up again if they decide. I don't think DeChambeau's coming this year. I don't think Rahm is. but Koepka being there, you know, Danny, to me, this is all, nobody watches this. Nobody watches, not that I know, watches LIV. Their ratings aren't very good, and you need the tour to be in the United States where the advertisers are, where the ratings are. You know, how many people get up and are going to watch a stop
and
on
where
the
you can build your resume. I have to think at some point these guys realize that does matter. That if you want to be thought of with the all-time greats, that's the only way you can do it.
Yeah, that and the golf courses they play. You know, go to Riviera, go to Torrey Pines, where history has been made time and time again. Here in Charlotte, Wells Fargo, which is now Truist, Quail Hollow. You play a lot of great golf courses, and that's where the tradition is, I think, in golf. And I think that's the way a lot of fans see it.
I have a quick question before we have to go to break. Would you, Bill, be able to share a streaming appropriate quick story of Dan from back in the day?
Appropriate being the key word there.
All right. So we did a game at LSU, I think. We're staying in New Orleans. We need to go to the airport. And we have an early flight. Danny's in the room next to me. We're supposed to leave at 6. I call his room. I got nothing. I hear the phone ringing. I pack my bag. I'm going out. I'm banging on the door. Danny, we got to go to the airport. So Danny gets, he finally opens the door. He'd been out a while. I throw him in the cab. We get to the airport. I get him on the plane. And we're sitting there talking. And, he had a good time last night, met someone. And all of a sudden he's looking at his hand, and there's her phone number on her hand.
Well done.
He got those digits. Let me be clear. She was a very nice young lady.
I'm sure.
It took me to a party in New Orleans, and that was the end of the evening. But yes, and to be technical, it was her name written across my knuckles.
Oh, name. Okay. I knew it was something.
Bill, you're the best, man. I appreciate you. It's good to catch up with you always. And I wish you and Jane nothing but the best, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
You got it, Danny boy. Always a pleasure. My best to Cindy. Take care.
Thank you very much. There he is, Bill Rosinski joining us right there. Great broadcaster, better dude. So we'll talk about that. We'll come back. We'll take a break. Much more on the other side. Stick with us. what's up? Back on the Sports Office. Great to have you here. Bill's a good dude, man.
Yeah,
he's a good dude. Yeah,
and thanks for sharing a little bit more about that story during the commercial break.
Yeah, it was actually a very innocent evening. It was just I'd never been to a barn party in New Orleans. I went to one that night, and it was quite a scene. It's they clearly, as Roop will tell you, know how to have a party down there, and that was
we almost went to New Orleans.
Yeah.
I had never been to New Orleans, and I was. Yep.
For people that don't know, when your team, as the Lions were, not even going to halftime when it was 24-7 over the Niners, but when you're headed to a possible Super Bowl, and probably that planning starts a month before the playoffs.
Yeah.
You put a lot of things into place and into motion. We had 20 people ready to go to New Orleans, hotel rooms. There was going to be programming from basically 4 a.m. when they start the morning show till 11:30, and probably beyond that because we would have had specials.
We had specials every night.
Yeah, from the Super Bowl. So all that planning was in place, and you start thinking about it at halftime. That game's 24-7, and you start thinking, oh my gosh, this is happening. We're getting ready to lock down on this thing.
We're here, and I'm walking during halftime, and I see Dave Spencer, our anchor. He was the one who had helped us out with some pre- and post-game shows. He was going to go as a news reporter if the Lions won. And I looked at him at halftime. I said, are we going to New Orleans? He goes, I think we might be going to New Orleans. And we're just the excitement, and then
I had somebody come into the booth at halftime and kind of give me a look like this is happening.
Yeah, I know who that was.
And I said,
and that person is the biggest jinx.
I said,
ever.
There's 30 minutes to go.
Yeah.
And honestly, I never lost sight of that.
Yeah.
I mean, you sat there and you thought, oh my gosh, maybe.
Yeah.
But never lost sight of the fact that there was 30 minutes left in that game. And it proved to be 30 minutes too many. And it was one of those things. But again, going back to what we talked about with Bill, it does give you an appreciation for the teams that finish that run. And maybe sometimes even more for the teams that are improbable, like Carolina was that year, and finding a way to get it. So
one day you will call a Super Bowl one day.
Listen, that's what you're working for.
And you're not allowed to quit until then.
Well, then I'm not going anywhere. That's where you work in the off season now to try to fix everything that's wrong. They're with what are there 8 teams left? So every other team that's not still playing is now trying to figure out what they got to do to be playing at this point and beyond next year. Take a break. Come right back. Finish up the Sports Office after this. Hey, welcome back. We were just sitting here kicking around, all of us in the room, the Lions OC position. And McDaniel, obviously, it appears interviewed. There were pictures of him at DTW. I assume they were not AI. So he was leaving.
Yeah.
But he's going on to interview for other head coaching jobs. And we were talking about just, Dan Campbell finding the right guy that meshes with him. And it's not just, do you get along? Do you think he's a good coach? It's also, do you have the same mindset, the same philosophy? Are you going to run the same system? Run being the operative word, because Dan Campbell wants somebody that's going to come in here and run the football.
Oh, no doubt. And that's why I was talking to you. This is what happened in Washington, where Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury kind of just fell out of love with each other 1 year after going to the NFC title game.
Yeah.
Because it seemed as though Dan Quinn wants more running of the football and less, passing, but less Jaden Daniels in trouble and running and possibly getting injured like he got injured a lot. So they got rid of Cliff. They brought in David Blau. We'll see how that goes, there. But yeah, what the Lions need to do is find someone who will have that same plan mentality that
there's
Campbell
so
wants.
many moving pieces right now. Because like we said, McDaniel's interviewing for other head coaching jobs, and Kafka's the other guy that could be a possibility. But, you got Philly with an OC opening, which is going to be a good job for somebody. You have these other head coaching jobs that are open, and if somebody's, and I don't want to diminish it, just going to be an OC, they may say, okay, I want to go there and work with that system where that coach has said. So it'll all settle, and you got to get the right guy. But there's a lot of moving pieces right now with 9 head coaching openings and even more coordinator openings they're trying to figure out. All right, that's it for this edition of the Sports Office. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again tomorrow night.